Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of the Arch Enemy Backtracking episodes, and we're just going to kick things right off with the band's 6th album, Doomsday Machine, released in 2005. This one would be produced by Richard Bexton, and it would also technically be Christopher Amell's last album with them, as he'd leave shortly after the album came out, but he'd return for the next album anyway, so we didn't leave as much as I guess he just needed to take a break. Yeah. But while I don't have a lot to say in that case, I do have plenty to say about Doomsday Machine. As always, I'll start by saying that I like the album, but the main problem with that is that it's just sort of another Arch Enemy album. It's an odd spiral that I'm sure isn't the band's fault, but it is something that I noticed on Anthems of Rebellion, in that there felt like too much filler on that album. That hasn't gone away for this one, sadly. If anything, I feel like it's gotten a bit worse. The pacing isn't as furious as before, but it doesn't add as much melody to keep the slow parts interesting. The structuring is odd as well, and it's hard to differentiate one song from the next. But one track that may be the worst example here is the song I Am Legend / Out for Blood. The first half starts out nice and melodic. It's a nice and melodic instrumental first before kicking into a raging metal tune. And not only is the tone mishandled, but so is the production. Angela sounds a bit too quiet at times, and apart from when the guitars are doing some nice solos, they sound quiet too. So, But still, despite that fact, the band themselves absolutely kick ass on all fronts here. There's no one that's going to take that away from them. Angela's vocals and dark lyrics still kill it, even though they do sound a bit quiet. The Amart brothers absolutely shred, Charlie's bass goes hard, and Daniel's drumming is really, really exquisite. But that's when you can hear them all, when the production isn't burying them. My favourite song goes to Carry the Cross. The band salvage an album that feels a bit slow and bogged down, and while not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, their dedication and work ethic is the main selling point of this one here. Next is the band's 7th album, Rise of the Tyrants. Released in 2007, it was produced by Fred Nordstrom and Michael Amott for the first time in a long time, and drummer Daniel Erlandson even got it on the production bit too. Also, this is another album with Per Weibo providing keyboard work, but he's not credited on the album artwork because of reasons. That's honestly about the only complaint I have about this album. I really enjoy this one for quite a lot of reasons. First, I was quite pleased that the band decided to book the formula, meaning that the first song of this album is an actual song. I know. There's only one instrumental track on the whole album titled Intermezzo Liberté, and the nerd in me appreciates the fact that the song title translates to what is essentially Intermezzo Liberty. Or just a short instrumental break, which is the actual translation of that. But enough of that. The album kicks off with the song Blood on Your Hands, and it fits the tone of this album down to a T. That T stands for tone, and that tone is fuck it, let's get wild. This album is one of the band's longer ones, but also one of their best paced, with absolute fury right from the start that barely lets up except to punch you in the gut even harder. It's also a surprisingly more mature output lyrically, as the title, first song, and most of the themes seem to point towards a more political lilt, speaking of societal unease and the mixing of the worst parts about both religion and government. And not only is the writing on point, but the production sounds a lot more organic, fleshing the band out in all the best ways. And speaking of which, the entire band is on fine form here. They just sound like they're having tons of fun. The album is just this unrestrained ballistic assault, and it's well written and produced too. Fuck yes to it all. My favourite song here is the closing track titled Vultures. This album is well balanced, it takes risks, and the band just absolutely kill it. I love this one. It might be my favourite album by them, probably. Who can tell? Next is the band's 8th album, Chaos Legions. Chaos with a K because they're cool like that. That's cool with the C. Released in 2011, it was produced by the whole band this time, and Richard Bengtsson would return here as well. It is also the last album to feature guitarist Christopher Amott and vocalist Angela Gosso. So, sad times there. But happy times, as this is the band's most successful album too, so yay! At the time it had the most music videos released for it. The album is the band's highest charting at 78 on the Billboard 200, which isn't the highest, but like ever, but still, highest for the band, which is good. And the album seems to have a loose concept to it as well. That concept carries over the political lilt that Rise of the Tyrant had, this time having themes of revolution. I mean, the album artwork is a good example, and it also looks like a poster I just have on my wall, so bonus points there. Now, for those with their ears activated, and for which I'm sorry about this mess of a video, you may have noticed that there was a 4-year gap between albums as well. And the main reason for that is that the band released an album titled The Root of All Evil in 2009, which just had redone versions of songs from the Johan Lever days, so there you go. But let's talk about this album instead, shall we? Because I don't count like redos with new vocalists, because it's just the same stuff but someone else singing it, so yeah. Anyway, the album starts with the instrumental track titled Chaos Overture, which again starts with a K, which then bleeds into Yesterday Is Dead and Gone almost effortlessly. This album keeps the same pacing and tone that the last outing had. Well, last outing, by which I mean the other one, not the redo one, Rise of the Tyrant. There we go. But yeah, it keeps the same pacing that album had, and it steps up a lot in production too. Even though it does follow having a couple more instrumental tracks, it works on an album that's supposed to be conceptualized, and those tracks work themselves nicely into the songs that follow. Again, it's a longer album that maximizes its time, and the band all sound great too. You know what? For our last album with them, Angelo Gosso absolutely fucking slays it here. The guitar work has more than plenty of shreds to it, everyone else sounds great, and it's a damn good follow-up to a damn good album. My favourite song goes to Cool Tough Chaos, with C's this time because they're cool like that. Strong enough for Angelo and Christopher to leave on though, and another great album and a back catalogue full of just genuinely really good stuff. Next up be the band's ninth album, War Eternal. Released in 2014, this would be produced by only the band themselves this time, and it would be the first to feature currently vocalist Alyssa White-Glues, as well as guitarist Nick Cordell. And Per Weiberg pops up again, so yay for him. Interestingly, before this album came out in June of 2014, there was a 2-week period in March of that year where a lot of shit happened. On the 3rd, the band announced that they were working on new material, then on the 17th, 2 weeks later, Angela announced that she was leaving, welcoming Alyssa as her replacement, which is nice to see and is definitely a way to ease the nerves when it comes to fans of bands like this. It would have worked on me back then, I'll tell you that much, but to be fair, I think the album itself eases any lingering concerns that people may have had. And be prepared for that shot glass of Johnny Walker to go down you, because the album starts with, well, actually not technically an instrumental track. The first song is titled Tempore Nihil Sonat Prelude in F minor, which translates to The Time Cannot Cure, which is damn cool. And the song itself is basically just a singing choir. The first actual song is titled Never Forgive, Never Forget, and prepare another shot of Jim Beam because it sets the tone nicely for the album. I sort of like that it carries on the faster pacing than the last couple of albums did, and and Alyssa honestly just fits with that style so well, but she does bring her own flair to it too, and I'm happy to see that Angela's faith was placed in the right person, and the rest of the band bounce off of her beautifully. Not only did the band sound great here, the album's production is typically brilliant, with more usage of pianos as well, which I quite liked a lot. It adds some really good melody to it, and the lyrics continue the dark themes about abuse of power, anger, and isolation, and sadness. So. My favourite song is titled You Will Know My Name. Arch Enemy's formula continues to work wonders, sounding brutal, surprisingly thoughtful, and really well polished. And finally, we reach the band's 10th album, Will to Power. I don't know why Will's going there. Released in 2017, it was produced by longtime band members Michael Amott and Daniel Ellenson, and it's also their first album to feature Jeff Fuckmothering Loomis on guitar. And this album is sort of a shift for the band as it sees them experimenting a lot more with their sounds. Adding more clean vocals and cleaner musical passages, and feeling, at least in my mind, a bit power metal inspired at times, thus concocting a genre that I can only describe as power death, which sounds like a metal band name in itself. When the album's first proper song, The Race, starts, it is your usual Arch Enemy fare, heavy, brutal, headbanging fun and all that. But then the next couple of tracks kick in, and Alyssa tries new things with her vocals, mostly some spokenish stuff, and it works. Obviously, this album's biggest talking point, though, is the song Reason to Believe, which is mostly Alyssa singing, and damn, not only can she scream, but her actual singing is honestly quite nice. I consider Alyssa as the most easiest to understand vocalist that Arch Enemy has had, and the fact that the band took that risk and it paid off speaks volumes of how good she is at fronting them, and of how much faith they had in her. The album's tone remains consistent with the band's usual lyrics, and they again feel more personal and easy to relate to, talking about hopelessness, distrust, lying, and anger, and it's done in an oddly uplifting way as well for the band, so that's another deviation from the usual norm for them. What is a deviation, though, is that the production is still good, as are the band themselves, because fucking obviously, no surprise that I like this one a lot, especially since it shows the band trying new stuff for a change, which is always nice, and I like seeing it. My favourite song goes to The World Is Yours. Arch Enemy again carve out another part of their legacy with a lighter, bit of a risky tone, but it pays off amazingly, so yeah. So that does it for the first 2-part episode of the season. I hope that you had fun, because I sure as hell did. Next time it will be Hailstorm, so looking forward to doing that one. That probably won't be the next video I get out, because I do have a few albums to work on, so next will most likely be Fight the Night, and possibly another PBW stream before I get to the episode, but yeah, we'll see what happens. As always, Thank you for watching, you're awesome. Bye bye.